Where is the legislator who will courageously rise up to protect every single preborn baby in our state? We are searching for Wilberforce. America's founders understood and established a form of government known as federalism. True federalism understands that all levels and branches of government possess lawful authority. An important aspect of federalism is that whenever one branch of government begins to play the tyrant, it is incumbent upon all other branches, whether federal, state, county, or local, to resist that branch, even if that branch is the Supreme Court itself. The state of Wisconsin provides a rich example of state defiance of tyranny in this regard. In 1859, the Wisconsin legislature and the Wisconsin Supreme Court defied the U.S. Supreme Court and interposed against the Federal Fugitive Slave Act by declaring it null, void, and of no authority in the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin interposed and simply said no to an unjust law and court opinion. It is time for Florida to follow Wisconsin's example. In our day, it has become painfully clear that the federal judiciary continues to play the tyrant. The U.S. Supreme Court has consistently been the dispenser of unjust, immoral, and unconstitutional court opinions, including that preborn babies can be murdered. Tragically, governors, state attorney generals, and state legislatures have complied with these unjust and immoral opinions by hiding behind the common song of our day. The Supreme Court has ruled, all we can do is obey. This mantra is a lie. It is not how our founders intended the states to respond to egregious acts of evil by the federal government. Rather, they expected interposition by the states. They expected defiance. The song of their day was, "Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God." The idea that U.S. Supreme Court opinion is the law of the land is repugnant to our form of government. The idea that SCOTUS is the final arbiter of what is or is not constitutional is pretend legislation. The idea that all other branches of government must bow down to the court opinions of the Supreme Court is legal fiction. Thomas Jefferson, who is the known author of the Declaration of Independence, repudiated the idea that the Supreme Court was the final arbiter of what is or is not constitutional. He said, "To consider judges as the ultimate arbiters of all constitutional questions is a very dangerous doctrine indeed, and one which would place us under the despotism of an oligarchy. Men will forbear, and so we should for a season. But there comes a point where forbearance becomes sin. There comes a point where forbearance becomes cowardice. There comes a point when men realize they no longer have the convenience of acting indifferent towards the unjust and immoral actions of their government." Our own Declaration of Independence established this truth for America. Thus, we submit to the state of Florida that the lawlessness of the federal and state judiciary should no longer be forborne. We submit to you that the murder of the preborn should not be forborne. Governor DeSantis, in your own inaugural address on January the 8th, 2019, you stated, "Our rights are endowed by God, not by government. We the people loan power to the government under the Constitution. The role of the judiciary, while important, must be limited. Courts lack the ability to legislate, but judges have their power beyond constitutional bounds and substitute legislative will for passionate legal judgment, reducing the power of the people and eroding individual liberty. To my fellow Floridians, I say to you, judicial activism ends right here and right now. The Constitution, not the judiciary, is supreme. Leadership requires decisive action. A little-known doctrine in our day that has been employed by men for thousands of years has proven to peaceably reign in the lawless acts of government officials is the doctrine of the lesser magistrate. The doctrine simply states, whenever the higher-ranking civil authority makes unjust, immoral, or constitutionally repugnant laws, policies, or court opinions, the lower-ranking civil authority has both the God-given right and duty not to obey the superior authority and, if necessary, actively resist it. Florida butchers more than 70,000 preborn babies every year. Some are torn apart, while others are poisoned. That averages out to one preborn child murdered every 7.5 minutes. And yet, while we ignore federal law in order to legalize marijuana, we ignore our own Constitution in order to pander to the Supreme Court's opinion. It is time to defy federal tyranny. It is time to fight back against child sacrifice. It is time to end judicial supremacy in Florida as you promised to do back on January the 8th, 2019. If Florida can defy the federal government in order to legalize marijuana, we can defy the federal government to restore justice and abolish abortion. May Christ rally the hearts of the citizens of Florida to establish righteousness and justice. May Florida make redemptive history. May you lead the way, Governor DeSantis, to protect the preborn in King Jesus' name. Governor DeSantis, these are the steps you should be following to bring true justice to Florida. If you agree to the following premises, then you should be open to adopting a strategic plan to abolish abortion. Every human being, regardless of this stage of development, is intrinsically valuable simply because he is a human being made in the image of God. A unique human being comes into existence at the moment of conception. Innocent human beings have a God-given right to life, so killing them is murder. Abortion is the killing of an innocent human being, and therefore murder. The primary purpose of government is to protect God-given rights. Per the United States Constitution's guarantees of the right to life and equal protection of the laws as recorded in the 5th and 14th Amendments, abortion is unconstitutional and unlawful. Per the Florida Constitution's guarantee of the right to life recorded in Article 1, Sections 2 and 9, abortion is unconstitutional and unlawful. Per Florida's homicide definition recorded in Florida Statutes Chapter 782.04, abortion is murder in the first degree and a capital felony. Those state statutes or constitutional amendments authorizing abortion conflict with higher laws. Not only are they immoral, but they are unconstitutional, therefore they are null and void. Roe v. Wade and its corollaries violate the clear wording and meaning of the U.S. Constitution, therefore they are null and void. Executives have a duty to uphold the U.S. Constitution regardless of how other officials ignore or lie about the Constitution. Higher even than constitutions, all men everywhere have a transcendent and moral duty to disregard and, where possible, resist an order from a superior to allow mass murder. Roe v. Wade and its corollaries are like orders from the Supreme Court to the states to permit mass murder. Therefore, the states have a transcendent moral obligation to ignore and, where possible, resist Roe v. Wade and its corollaries. All law enforcement personnel have a duty to protect innocent human beings within their jurisdictions. The governor of the state is the highest-ranking executive officer in the state. The governor has a moral and legal duty to take executive action to save innocent lives in his state. Governor DeSantis, you should take these following steps immediately. Hold necessary preliminary meetings with city, council, and state police to pre-select commanding officers and officers who are committed to the plan and will stand their ground. Hold a press conference announcing the immediate abolition of abortion in Florida per the above premises and the executive oath of office. In the press conference, explain the entire plan from start to finish. Announce the effective date of enforcement and outline your specific actions. Call an emergency special session of the Florida Legislature to enact the Abolition of Abortion in Florida Act to bring Florida statutes into agreement with the higher laws. This act would lessen the likelihood of lower courts throwing cases out based on contradictory statutes. It is important to note that since it takes 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate to override the governor's veto, then the governor's veto is worth 106 votes in the Florida legislature. Therefore, he can force the issue by vetoing other bills and the budget until they pass a bill of abolition. The governor can lead and drive the issue to a resolution. On the first practicable date, order state police to descend upon all abortion facilities to set up barricades and prevent entry to any party other than the registered owner. Expect all law enforcement personnel to stand their ground, even in the face of constitutional court orders which would certainly be forthcoming. Refuse to back down or remove police, no matter what, until properties are re-let. Coordinate with the state attorney general to press charges and prosecute cases that arise from new evidence received after the effective date of abolition. Refuse to allow Florida to make an appearance in any court that attempts to block or interfere with Florida law. Order all law enforcement personnel to arrest any federal marshal or other official who attempts to interfere with Florida's law. Call upon President Trump to stand with Florida. If any federal funding is cut off, withhold all federal tax dollars collected in the state and craft a new state budget that funds essential core functions without federal aid. Call upon Christians in Florida to practice pure and undefiled religion. We, the church, must support you fully and assist mothers and fathers who would have formerly sought abortion. Finally, challenge the governors of other states to follow Florida's righteous example. Governor DeSantis, we're looking to you as a righteous leader, someone who cares for the tiniest members in our society, to rise up and fight with all of your might on their behalf for the glory of God alone.